What's going on, everyone? Welcome. My name's Alex Hormozi. I'm the CEO of Acquisition.com. And in this video, what I want to do is show you how I turned $1,036 into $112 million in revenue over 44 months using unique acquisition frameworks. This is going to be the introduction to a long series of courses that I'm giving away for free. And I'm doing that because I want to help everyone who's under $3 million a year just get there. And so my transparent intention is to give you more value than you'd be getting from your quote high ticket courses and coaching programs, and do it absolutely free. And it's because candidly I don't need the money, and because this is something that I'm really passionate about. And so I built the studio, I built all this stuff just for this process for you. So once I obviously had got started, I was able to double down again and again using these acquisition frameworks I'm going to share with you, and ended up spending 3.1 million and getting a total lifetime return of 36 to 1 on advertising. So these are practices that I've done myself, that I have lived firsthand, and I know that they work, and so I just want to be able to share those with you. I would share these one-on-one, and this is what I do with our portfolio companies. But since I can only work with companies that that are doing a minimum of 3 to 10 million a year that work with us, this is just for everyone else to be able to learn for free. All right. So I've built Gym Launch from 0 to 2.4 million a month in 18 months. Prestige from 0 to $1.7 million. That's an e-commerce brand. Allen is our software company from 0 to 1.4 million in 6 months, and that's per month, each of those numbers. So 2.4 million a month, 1.7 million, 1.4, and then 40,000 to 700,000 was one of our acquisitions, to $700,000 a month in a short 10 months. All right, and that was brick and mortar. So you can see this across different, one was licensing, one was physical products, one was software, and the other is brick and mortar chain in photography. So very different types of businesses, but the frameworks work all the same. All right. And so, like I said earlier, we take $3 to $10 million companies at minimum in that range, obviously higher, but at minimum in that range, with the goal to exit in 3 to 5 years. My point for all of these videos is to give you help you make your first dollar, your first million, your second $1 million. What I do with companies is I help them make their last dollar they'll ever need to make. And that's kind of my whole thing. So if you're less than 3 million right now, then this is all for you. Enjoy it for free. I have nothing to sell you. So enjoy. All right. So the offer, how to make offers so good people feel stupid saying no. The reason I started with offers over anything else is that before we can get into traffic, before we can get into, generating leads, making sales, all that stuff, you have to literally initiate a transaction with a customer, which is an offer, which is what you're going to exchange in value with them to get them to pay, right? So to catch fish, you need bait or an offer. All right. And so that is the starting point of a conversation to initiate a transaction, what you literally give them in exchange for their money. So right now, if you have, if your ads don't convert well, or you're not getting new customers, or your sales team or your salesperson, or it's you, has trouble scaling, or it takes too long to ramp up new reps, or you're just not getting people to say yes, many times the offer is the issue, right? And so the reason this is important is that the offer is going to be the number one driver of success in any campaign. So what does it do, right? It will allow you to sell in a vacuum or a category of one and force customers to make value-based decisions instead of price-based decisions. This is the key point of why an offer is so important. All right, when customers look at the marketplace, when they're trying to solve a problem, they're going to look at the different offers that exist, right? And if you can position your offer in such a way that they are not going to compare your price, right? Because they can't, because you've made your offer so unique. Right? In so doing, you become a category of one, and then you're no longer constrained by pricing whatsoever. Right? And so by doing that, you're able to sell in a way that's completely one-to-one, so that you don't have to compete with anyone else. And that will protect your margin. It will give you a host of competitive advantages that are enduring. All right. And so the goal of fixing your offer or improving your offer is to decommoditize what you sell. Now, the end result of that is you'll have higher CTR, so click-through rates on your ads, because your offer is better. You'll have a higher amount of those people who will convert and say yes to working with you because the offer is better, and they'll be able to say yes at higher prices. And so you combine those things together, you have a higher percentage of eyeballs who say, yes, I'm interested, a higher percentage of those people, that is already a greater number, saying, yes, I want to buy, and doing so at higher prices. And so I'm going to show you a couple real-world examples of what we've done here. And so the translation for normal languages, more leads, more sales at higher prices and higher profits. Okay. So here's two real life examples. One is a B2C weight loss example. This is a really classic one. This is what we did in our licensing company a few years ago, and it really transformed the industry. So the typical, independent owner of a boot camp or any kind of independent facility, they were charging $99 a month for large group training. And the problem with that is that it's highly commoditized, right? There's a ton of people who are offering the same thing for the same price. And again, this is the point here. People are going to look around and say, well, this place is closer to me and maybe this one's, $10 more. And then they just basically look and say, are these equivalent? Yes, then I will take the cheaper one, right? And that's horrible and embarrassing, and you don't want that to happen. So what we did is we switched our offer to a free 6-week challenge. And so the components of that offer were fairly simple, right? Instead of selling, a membership package, we would sell a defined end program, which was, in this case, you'll lose 20 pounds in 6 weeks, or, and if you do lose it, you get all of your money back, right? Which is pretty cool and compelling, right? It's like betting on yourself. And so people thought that was a really cool offer too. And so people would pay $600 and then get a host of other things that you wouldn't normally be able to get at a bootcamp or a large group training facility. You'd have an accountability coach, you'd have a nutrition coach, you'd have meal plans, grocery lists, food preparation instructions, eating out guides, all of these extra pieces that would make it amazing. And then on top of that, there was a satisfaction guarantee that even if you didn't hit the goal, if you didn't think you got $600 worth of value during that period of time, they would give you the money back. All right. Really compelling offer, right? And so as a result of that, a lot of people wanted it. And so because it was free, more people clicked. Because the offer was so good, more people bought. And as a result of that, instead of getting $99 on these people, we got $600 plus, and then there were multiple upsells on top of that. And so this literally transformed what most people were doing to break even on their acquisition or lose money getting new customers to making 30 to 1 upfront. All right, that doesn't even include the recurring or back end. 30 to 1. That means if you put $1,000 into marketing, you make $30,000 in that first 30 days. That is the power of changing the offer. All right. The core services were the same. And this is the key point here, is that in your business, we don't need to change what you're doing. We need to change how you're presenting what you're doing. And that's what this whole training is about. All right. So here's a second one. This is a B2B agency example. So on B2C, as in business to consumer, and B2B is business to business. So you're selling, business services. So this is an agency example. So if a classic lead generation to small business owner, if you're serving chiropractors, you're serving plumbers, you're serving roofers, you're serving whatever, right? A classic example would be like a $1,500 a month retainer, right? That's a normal example. But what we did is, and that's very commoditized, which is why it's very difficult for most people to make money doing that, right? And we switched that to pay me once, then only pay me when someone shows up, right? So you pay me one time, we get you set up, and then from that point going forward, the only money you ever pay me is if I get someone to show up at your business. All right. So let me show you the difference of what happened and this is our customers. All right. This isn't me doing this. This was agencies we worked with. All right. They went from 0.5 to 1 return on advertising in their first 30 days, meaning they spent $1,000 to get $500 back, or they spent $5,000, got $2,500 back, but then they had the recurring so they wouldn't get up the next month, right? That's a normal business with normal returns. The difficulty is it's hard to scale that profitably unless you have a lot of money, right? Which many people don't. And so once we made this transition to a pay-for-performance model, they went from 0.5 to 1 to 11 to 1 return. That means they put $1,000 in, they got $11,000 back before they have the continuity that kicks in. This is the power of changing the offer. Now you'll notice that these are different offers altogether. This one is a performance offer with an implied guarantee. This one had 2 guarantees, and a conditional and an unconditional guarantee, and it had a stack of bonuses with some urgency. And I'm going to show you kind of how to put these pieces together. All right. So real quick, because I like showing the math behind this stuff, the first offer that I told you, these were the numbers behind that offer. They spent $10,000. This is the data we collected. 300,000 impressions. The response rate was 0.00013. They were booking 40 appointments. Show rate was 75%. You can see the math all the way down here, and that's what resulted in 0.5 to 1. Now, as soon as we made the change, we got 2.5 times the response rate. All right, that's key point number 1. 2.5 times as many people who saw the ads with that offer responded. All right. Now from there, that obviously 2.5x the results, all that stuff was unchanged, just 2.5x flowed through. The second big point of improvement was on the closing percentage. They closed 2.3 times more people, all right, than they were before on their typical model. All right. And here's what's crazy is that we actually quadrupled the price for these agencies. All right. So a lot of them were charging $1,000 or $1,500 up front, but they were able to charge $4,000 up front. All right, so they had 2.5 times the response rate, 2.3 times the close rate, and then 4 times the price. And so what that resulted in was 22.4 times more cash collected up front. All right, so if they spent $10,000, they made $5,000 the first time. When they made this Grand Slam offer, which is what we call an offer that takes all the components put together, they made $112,000 off that same $10,000 in ad spend. All right, and they went from 0.5 to 1 to 11.2 to 1. And so the end result here is they got paid to get new customers. And that is the point, right? If you can get paid to get new customers, then marketing budgets disappear and it all becomes about scaling your operational, bottlenecks. It no longer becomes acquisition. Acquisition is no longer the bottleneck. And ultimately, what's interesting for me is that with the companies that I work with, I'm almost never talking about acquisition because we fix the acquisition problem so quickly that the remainder of our time is building out the operational scale and infrastructure of the business. So you might think, Alex, that's neat, but how do I actually do that? That is the purpose of all the courses and trainings I'm going to be putting together for you. All right, so there's 9 components that we've kind of identified. There's a book that's coming out, and probably if you're watching this, it may already be out, that goes into all of these factors in more depth. I think it's free or at cost. It's probably between $1 and $10 wherever you buy it. Don't quote me. Maybe it's 20, or maybe I changed my mind and made it 1,000, but probably $1. So number one is you want to have the right market. All right, so I call it the starving crowd. So there's 3 components to that. There's 4 factors and 3 main markets, and then how to niche that I'm going to cover. Charging what it's worth. So I'm going to talk about pricing. The next part of the offer is going to be the value equation. So it's understanding how to create more value in the actual thing that you're selling itself. And it's really just repackaging the things you're already doing in new ways. All right. Beyond that, it's be creating the Grand Slam offer part 1, which is actually defining out their outcome, figuring out the problems, and figuring out the solutions that you're going to provide to those problems. The second part is going to be the sales to fulfillment continuum, which is ultimately, I could work one-on-one with every single person, but it'd be very difficult to fulfill. So the question is, how do we mix these parts so we can make it a scalable model, a scalable offering that's still going to provide tons and tons of value to them? All right. Next, we'll have scarcity and urgency. So this is basically how we decrease the decision-making period for the prospect to get them to buy faster. There are ethical ways to do this that we've used over and over again that work very, very well. And I'll show you both of those because scarcity and urgency are different. Oftentimes they're treated the same, but they're not the same. And I'll show you the delineations between those. 7, as I'll show you the bonuses. So there's 11 bullet points that we do when we're considering bonuses and stacking offers. And I'll show you what we look into those things. 8, I'll show you the different types of guarantees. I think I'll show you 13 different guarantee structures off of 2 main ones, which is conditional and unconditional guarantees, and how to stack those guarantees together to virtually eliminate risk for your prospect. And then finally, the magic naming formula. And the reason this is important is because, one, if you're in a local market or in a smaller market or niche, you'll oftentimes need to change the naming around your core product or your promotions in a way that gets your avatars or your prospects to want to move towards you and know that what you have is for them. Right. And so there's ways of naming things that will increase response rates. There's ways of naming things that will increase the value that they're going to perceive from your product. And I'm going to break down each of those things for you. Okay. So that concludes our introduction to this entire section. These are the 9 components of the offer: starving crowd, charging what it's worth, getting the value right, understanding how you're going to break down the problems, understanding how you're going to fulfill those problems, scarcity, urgency, bonuses, guarantee, and actually how to name it. So really excited to dive in with these. This is some of the, I'm just very excited. So hope you are too. Buckle up. It's going to be a fun ride. And I'll see you in the next video.